I just bought every Mac Apple released in 2026, and I found the problem. The MacBook Neo, the MacBook Air, and the MacBook Pro too, and I even got the new iPad Air as well, but more on that in a second. And after using all of these, one of them felt like the obvious choice, until it didn't. Because one of these on paper looks like the most sensible option, but might actually be the one people end up regret buying. And the weird thing is, nothing actually went wrong. It didn't crash, it wasn't slow, it didn't break. I just kind of realised something. This lineup isn't really about which Mac is best for you right now. It's about how long each one stays the right choice. Because on paper, this should be simple. You've got the cheap MacBook, you've got the ultra thin MacBook, and you've got the powerful MacBook. But after actually using them, that's not what this is. So let's start with this one, the Neo, that feels like the obvious choice. At £600, it's going to be enough for most. Emails, browsing, streaming, light work, and on day one, this feels great. A lot of this is genuinely impressive. You're getting a proper solid, premium feeling MacBook, great build quality, the keyboard and trackpad are exactly what you would expect from a high-end Apple machine. The 36 watt-hour battery, whilst not elite, is decent for everyday things, and it's smooth and responsive, browsing, watching content, writing, even some light editing. This actually genuinely feels really good value. Incredible value, actually, hence all the hype. But that's exactly my point. The problem isn't what you can do at the start, it's how quickly you start adjusting to what it can do later on. So here we've got heavy browsing, tabs, videos, docs, all open at the same time, and this is where a lot of people do live day to day. We tend to just let it all chug along in the background. And at this point you can feel things tightening slightly. Not slow, just less room to breathe. And if you look at the benchmarks that I've run here, the A18 Pro, the chip inside this, is genuinely impressive for a mobile chip. But when you compare it to the M5 chip inside the Air and the Pro, it just can't compete. It basically gets demolished. OpenCL scores also backs this up, and if you're looking to use your MacBook for 3D animation or visual effects and need great rendering performance, again, there is quite the gulf between the models as shown here on Blender. Read and write speeds here are vastly different, about 1500 on the Neo and about 6500 on the M5 Mac models. And on Cinebench, the Neo does pretty competitively on single thread, but is significantly less powerful on the multiple thread tests. So solid performance for the Neo, but only really for a mobile chip, because this is in fact the same processor as the one in the iPhone 16 Pro. A brilliantly powerful bit of hardware, but not one that's designed specifically from the ground up for a laptop. And interestingly, that chip inside the Neo is a slightly trimmed down version too. You still get the same 6-core CPU as on the iPhone, but a 5-core GPU instead of the full 6-core version. And cynics might say this was done to increase profits, possibly. When Apple makes a chip like the A18 Pro, not every single one comes out perfect. Some have fully working GPU cores, others have one weaker or defective core. And instead of just throwing those away, Apple can disable that weaker core and sell it as a slightly lower tiered version, so effectively you are still using that same silicon, just not the absolute best version of it. This helps reduce waste and improves profits at the same time. But outside of that, the key takeaway is this. The problem isn't general performance, it's headroom. And having a mobile chip inside the Neo limits something as simple as the ports. It technically has 2 USB-C, but for some of you, they aren't going to be enough compared to those on the Air and the Pro. One is USB 3 up to 10 gigabytes per second, but one is only USB 2 up to 480 megabytes per second. No Thunderbolt. The key limitations here in essence are you only have one fast pipeline. So only one supports an external display, only one supports a fast external SSD connection. There is a massive speed difference between these two ports on offer. The charging is also slower, and there is also no MagSafe. So if you are a clumsy oaf like me, who constantly trips over the cables, then this may end up causing a little bit more damage than it might do if you had the MagSafe connection like on the other two. In comparison, the new M5 MacBook Air has 2 times Thunderbolt 4 USB-C, up to 40 GB per second, so both faster than even the fast one on the Neo. And you also have that MagSafe 3 dedicated charging like on the Pro, and you just have far more flexibility for external displays, high-speed storage, docking setups, etc. And then on the M5 MacBook Pro 14-inch, you also have 3 times Thunderbolt 4, HDMI, SD card slot, MagSafe 3, and a 3.5mm headphone jack, which I might add runs across all 3 devices, to be fair. If you also opted for the M5 Pro and M5 Max models, the speeds can go up to 120 GB per second. Built-in Pro ports, no dongles needed, highest bandwidth, and multi-display support. So the real difference in all of this, and why it may matter to you, is that Neo technically may force compromise immediately. And again, even something as simple as gaming, light stuff is going to be an absolute breeze. It can even handle some pretty system-intensive titles on mostly mid settings, but you will hit limits faster than you would expect, certainly on the other two. Photo work, video editing, overall content creation, it's fine at first, and in fact, for newcomers to the area, or those that only create really simple kind of vertical Instagram Reels or TikToks, for example, it will work absolutely fine. There's not really much it can't do. But certainly when you go a tiny bit more complex with animations, transitions, it just takes that little bit longer to do certain tasks than on the Air and the Pro, and those fine margins might become frustrating. It's not that it can't do it, it's just that the efficiency is definitely a step down. And especially if you're going to be doing this a lot, or even as a career, these things before long are probably going to get quite irritating. And to put this into context, I've actually had a similar problem before. Not with this exact same situation, but with the same kind of decision. A few years ago, I bought the M1 Pro MacBook Pro over the Max variant because it was cheaper, the battery was meant to be potentially a little bit better than the Max variant, and the performance in my head was probably going to be good enough. But with the power of hindsight, I really should have gone with the M1 Max model, because before long, as soon as I realised I wanted to upscale my workflow, increase the complexity of our edits, more 4K layers, plugins, etc., the system started to chug. I began having to look at using proxy files, reducing the quality of footage playback. It was still doable, but it wasn't ideal, and because this is my daily job, I noticed those things and they did start to irritate me. But my main point here is that I didn't just live with those frustrations, I also spent more money in the long run having to upgrade further down the line, as soon as I realised it wasn't enough. A significant extra outlay. This isn't the same situation and everyone's use cases will vary, but the idea behind the problem is the same. Things like this don't necessarily repeat, but they rhyme. Now with the MacBook Air, that's where everything changes. Not dramatically on paper, but massive in how it feels. The M5 chip compared to the A18 Pro, 16GB of RAM compared to the 8, same workflow, but you stop thinking about what's open and how you navigate it. It's not just faster, it's more consistent. This is when student workflows increase, or the creators scale up, and anyone who's keeping the laptop long term, a few years down the line. The Air just doesn't do more now, it gives you more time, because you don't feel the need to replace it. And then there's the MacBook Pro, and the first noticeable difference to both the other two is the screen. The Neo and the Air actually look fairly similar at first glance. Same brightness, similar sharpness, but the Air has P3 color, basically a wider range of colors, so everything looks more vibrant, and it also has True Tone, which the Neo does not. And then when you move to the Pro, it's a completely different class of display. Mini LED plus 120Hz and being much brighter, this is a huge jump visually. Again, for the creators that are working with color grading and LUTs, working outdoors, for example, this could be invaluable. This is the only one that still looks great in direct sunlight. And that 120Hz refresh compared to the 60, it's not a workflow limitation, it's a feel difference. The 120Hz refreshes twice as fast, so smoother motion, less blur, more responsive feel. You won't outgrow 60Hz, but you'll notice 120. Just a much more fluid experience. Scrolling web pages, scrubbing timelines, higher frame rate gaming. You don't miss it until you use it, and then going back feels worse. And in terms of power, this is where most people get the Air and the Pro wrong. This isn't even about overall day-to-day performance necessarily. It's about sustained performance, and it's about niche moments. This is where the Pro separates itself. Because they have technically the same chip, it's the sustained performance where the Pro excels, mainly due to the active cooling, the fans inside this compared to this. The upfront numbers at first tend to show a similar experience, but the Pro can hold the line. It doesn't get phased. This is for heavy editing, complex workflows, long sessions. But importantly, you don't buy the Pro just in case. You generally buy it because you've found a limit elsewhere. And then, ping, cheeky WhatsApp notification. There's the iPad Air, which isn't even a Mac, but yet it sits directly in the same price bracket as the Neo, making everything even more confusing. Because on one hand, you've got a MacBook with a mobile chip inside, and then we've got a tablet, a fairly mobile device, with a laptop or desktop chip inside, which doesn't really make sense at first. The iPad Air has the M4 chip, which is significantly more powerful than what you're getting in the Neo. And in some ways, it actually feels more flexible. You've got the touchscreen, the Apple Pencil that I don't personally have, but you can. And it's lighter, it's easy to travel with, it's technically more powerful. But then you hit the other side of it. It's still iPad OS. So even though the hardware is technically more powerful, it has its own software limitations, which puts a ceiling on what you can do. And this is where the whole decision tends to fall apart a little. Because if you're looking at getting the Neo thinking this is probably enough for what I need, then you can probably do a lot of that already on the iPad Air. But then if that's the case, then you're way nearly dropped it. That would have been an expensive mistake. But if you are in that camp, then you're probably looking at a more powerful, more flexible, more, all-in-one machine. These two. So now you're not just choosing between Macs, you're choosing between two completely different platforms. By which at that point, you could then just say, well, why don't I just use my phone? Slightly exaggerating my point there, but you kind of get the idea. But that's what makes this whole lineup so confusing. Not because any of them are bad, they're all really great products, but because they overlap in ways that aren't at first very apparent. Because if you're considering the Neo, the iPad Air becomes a real alternative, a limited laptop or a flexible tablet. And if you're hellbent on a laptop form factor and you want to make the saving of the Neo over, say, the Air, what works for you now in terms of performance might not scale as you grow, leading to you potentially needing to upgrade sooner than you think, potentially spending even more money in the long run. So Apple hasn't just made different products, they've made different trajectories. The Neo is the lower entry, lower ceiling. The Air is the balanced, great long-term choice. And the Pro is consistency under extreme load and serious future-proofing. The iPad Air is a completely different proposition altogether, but for some of you, again, this will make more sense. So at £600, the Neo is definitely worth the hype, really. It looks like a bargain, because up front, it really is. But the question isn't, is it enough today? It's how long does it stay enough? Because a cheap laptop you outgrow often ends up costing more than the more expensive one that you keep. And that's why for most people, in my humble opinion, the MacBook Air is still the safer choice. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Neo, Air, or Pro? Or are you an iPad fan? Either way, if you've got any questions about these three, pop them down below as well, and I will try my best to get back to you. If you have enjoyed the video and found it helpful, drop a like and subscribe for more content like this. Check out some other videos that I think you might like here. My name's Adam, you've been the best as always. I love you and leave you. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.